Hello, and welcome everyone to this abbreviated online overview of the Visiting Committee training. This screencast is not a replacement for the actual live training, as the live training incorporates lived experience that is shared with the group. During the screencast, you should have a copy of the ISL 2012 Visiting Committee Manual, which can be found on the WCEA website. You should also have a copy of the ISL Manual, a self-study process for Catholic elementary schools. Please pause the screencast, which will only provide an outline for you as needed to review the content in the manual. By now, you should already have your pre-visit date scheduled as well as your visit dates, and you should have also heard some communication from your chair. Accreditation is a self-assessment process for schools to hold themselves accountable, but it is much more than that. It helps schools to examine to what extent the school's Catholic identity is infused into the total school program. It also helps the school to examine to what extent data is being collected, disaggregated, and analyzed, and how student learning decisions are being made based on the analysis of the assessment data. Finally, it helps the school to examine to what extent students are mastering the essential academic content standards and SLEs, what evidence exists of adequate ongoing academic growth for all students, and how the school supports high achievement for all of its students. In ISL, there are many words that you may or may not be familiar with. Please pause the screencast and look at your ISL 2012 manual. Turn to page 15 to review any terminology that you may not be familiar with. The accreditation cycle is a total of 6 years. More information can be found here on our live Google Drive. Year 1 is the writing year, which is right before the year of the visit, and year 2 is the year of the actual visit. For more information on this, please go to our Google Drive under WCEA and then click on WCEA year-by-year checklist and documents so you can see what the expectations are for accreditation for each year during the cycle. There are 6 key outcomes from the self-study. First one, an assessment of Catholic culture and charism. Next, the involvement and collaboration of all shareholders. Third, clarification of mission, philosophy, and school-wide learning expectations. Fourth, data to assess students' academic and spiritual growth. Fifth, the schools develop an action plan which is focused on student learning. And lastly, development of a system of accountability for monitoring progress toward the goals. There are 12 accreditation factors in ISL 2012. Please pause this and review the 12 accreditation factors. Visiting Committee Manual pages 33 to 41. The purpose of the Visiting Committee is to provide validation, analysis, and professional feedback to the school based on the Visiting Committee's review of the self-study, evidence, observation, discussion, review of the student work, and an analysis of data in relation to the 12 WCEA accreditation factors. The visiting committees determine, is the school's self-study a reflection of the reality experienced by the team? You will have a very full visit when you actually go to see your school. Here's a sample agenda so you can see what your day might look like during your 3-day visit to a school. You can see that your day begins early in the morning at about 7 and doesn't end till approximately dinner time. The 3rd day may or may not end early, depending on the needs of the visiting committee. Now I'd like you to pause the screencast and take some time to review the Visiting Committee Manual. Start with the responsibilities, the guidelines for classroom visits, some sample group focus questions, and finally some visiting committee reminders and tips for the visit. And again, I'd like you to pause the screencast and review visiting committee documents that you will be working on prior to your visit and completing during your visit to the school. The report of findings in both the manual and the rubric, the justification statement, and recommendation for accreditation status. Some important reminders. Again, this was just an outline of the training, so make sure that you completely read through and annotate the Visiting Committee Manual prior to your pre-visit. Also, confidentiality is essential to the process. It's the best form of professional learning that you'll ever have, but please remember that if anything is shared confidentially, you're not supposed to be sharing it with your home school. Of course, if you pick up teaching practices that you'd like to then replicate in your school, that's encouraged. But I'm sure your chair will also reinforce the importance of confidentiality. Also, draw on the experience of others on your team who've served on accreditation teams. Although the protocol changed in 2012, there's still much to be learned from the experience of people who've served on many committees. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Here is my email address. Thanks, and I'll see you at the visit. Take care.